1970, Manchester, New Hampshire. The smiling man on Halloween teens, stalked by a grinning figure who never blinked. Halloween night arrived with its usual charm. Pumpkins flickered on porches, teenagers wandered in costumes through the crisp autumn air, and the streets buzzed with mischief and laughter. But for a small group of teens walking home that night, the holiday's playful mask would peel away, revealing something far darker. They first noticed him near the edge of Elm Street, a man standing perfectly still beneath a broken lamppost. He wore no costume, no mask, only a cheap, wrinkled suit that seemed too small for his lanky frame. His face carried no paint, no disguise. Instead, he wore a grin, wide, frozen, unnatural. He never blinked. At first, the teens laughed nervously, assuming he was just another adult playing a Halloween prank. But when they crossed to the other side of the street, so did he. When they quickened their pace, his footsteps echoed just behind them. That smile never faltered. It stretched across his pale face like a wound. One boy dared to call out, "Hey, what's your problem?" But the smiling man said nothing. He only tilted his head, as though studying them, grin locked in place. The group hurried on, hearts pounding, glancing over their shoulders, only to find him closer each time, his long strides cutting the distance effortlessly. They darted through alleys, crossed busy streets, tried to lose him in the chaos of Halloween night. But wherever they turned, he was there, always smiling, always silent. One girl swore she saw his mouth twitch wider, as though it could split his face in two. Another insisted his eyes were not human at all, but black pools reflecting only the moonlight. Finally, when they reached the safety of their neighborhood, he stopped. Just yards away, his body rigid, his grin unbroken. He stood under the glow of a jack-o'-lantern, as if mocking the carved faces around him. And then, he was gone. Not with a scream, not with a step, but simply vanished into the night. The police dismissed their story as Halloween jitters, but the legend of the smiling man grew. Parents warned their kids to come home before dark, and whispers spread of others who had seen him, not just on Halloween, but on lonely nights along back roads and quiet neighborhoods. Always grinning, always watching. The twist came years later, when researchers uncovered older accounts from the 1800s of a figure in New England, described in eerily similar ways. A tall man with a grotesque grin, haunting travelers on autumn nights. Some called him a demon, others thought him an omen, a harbinger of madness. In Manchester, locals came to believe Halloween itself invited him back. When masks and costumes filled the streets, when laughter blurred with fear, the smiling man could hide among the living without question. And those who met his gaze carried the memory forever, his grin carved into their minds like a scar. To this day, stories surface each October of a figure in an ill-fitting suit, standing too still, smiling too wide. Skeptics call it urban legend. Believers know better. For on Halloween night, when the shadows lengthen and every costume conceals a secret, one question lingers. What if the smile staring at you from the dark doesn't belong to a neighbor at all? Over time, whispers grew that the smiling man was no mere prankster or phantom. Researchers digging deeper found unsettling links. In the 1800s, an asylum outside Manchester had burned to the ground, killing dozens. Among the patients was a man whose condition was described in detail. He could not stop smiling. His face had locked into a grotesque grin even in death. Some believed his spirit never left. Locals say his laughter was never heard, only silence paired with that frozen smile. Each Halloween, when masks and costumes blur reality, his presence returns, not to harm, but to remind the living of what happens when darkness consumes a soul. The grin is not joy, not madness alone, but a mark of torment carried beyond the grave. To see him is to witness the echo of suffering that can never rest. And so, every October, when shadows stretch long, the smiling man waits, always grinning, always watching.